Are recording. All right. So again, welcome everyone to EAC's Winter Gathering. Again, we would normally be doing this in person, and it's really fantastic to see all of your faces here today. I wish I can only see one screen at a time, and there's 3 pages. I wish I could scroll through all of it to see everybody. It's great to see you all, and I hope you all are doing really well. Normally we would be sharing stories, eating some excellent food that Jessica would have helped and Patty put together for us, talking shop, sharing stories, and having a glass of wine together. But hopefully this will suffice for tonight. And I want to share one thing that Jessica created for us. So we're going to share my screen here. And I'm going to cross my fingers this worked. Worked earlier. Okay. Everybody see my screen? Give me a thumbs up. We're good here. Okay, here we go. All right, hopefully that worked, and the sound came through, and hopefully it wasn't grainy. That was our first video share, so I'm hoping that was a success. Thank you, Jess, for creating that beautiful slideshow. It really helps to set the tone in the moment of all of the wonderful places and species that we're protecting and we all love in West Marin. And thank you, Sarah Killingsworth and Carlos Parada, for many of those beautiful images that were just in that slideshow. Okay, so I am going to do a transition over here to give you guys a brief presentation. And again, see if I can make this work. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Hold on, I just lost everybody. And okay, can you guys see my slides?
Yep.
Jess? Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. I lost you guys right when I shared. Everybody disappeared on me. Okay, so I'm just going to take a couple moments to go through a little bit about our layout for tonight, what to expect. So we've already done the slideshow. I'm going to talk a little bit about EAC and where we are and some of our programmatic work and our vision for 2021 and beyond. And then we will be hearing from Armando, Director of California State Parks. We'll have some time for questions and answers. And then we're going to be doing a giving thanks and prize giveaway as we close out. So our mission defines our work. I'm sorry, our mission and values define and guide our work. And since 1971, EAC has remained engaged in the protection of West Marin's unique lands, waters, and biodiversity through our advocacy, engagement, and education. We provide an essential voice on behalf of the environment in West Marin, and we're one of the only local environmental advocacy nonprofits taking on multi-year and sometimes decade-long campaigns to address some of the environmental threats that we face. We accomplish our work by bringing people, science, and policy together to protect what we love. Very often, our work is not accomplished overnight, so the long-term support and generosity of our membership and community is vital to our ongoing efforts to ensure environmental protection measures are in place and lasting. And this is a picture of the Tomales Dunes. That's probably an over 20-year campaign that we've worked on. The climate crisis presents an immediate need for action. Addressing the environmental hazards associated with the impacts of a changing climate and building community resilience is at the forefront of our work today. These are complicated issues, and there's a need for additional public outreach and education for our communities as we collectively make decisions that have lasting impacts for our future generations. With the pandemic, we have found our working environment changed. Our team has been working remotely since March, and I remember when we all thought this was going to be about 2 weeks, and here we are 8 months later. I really want to take a moment to thank our wonderful staff and board and volunteers and committee members who have stepped up and are working in new and creative ways to help us meet this moment to ensure EAC is able to accomplish our mission. So thank you to Ashley Eagle Gibbs, our conservation director. Thank you to Jessica Taylor, our development director, William Hubert, our educational coordinator, Patty Wimpheimer, our bookkeeper and numbers master, and Catherine Caulfield, our consultant on the Tomales Dunes campaign. I also want to thank our board of directors, who you can see on screen here, and also many of them on the Zoom. Bridger Mitchell, our board president, who's not here tonight because he is celebrating his wonderful wife, Catherine's 80th birthday. Happy birthday, Catherine. Ken Drexler, thank you. Our vice president, Terrence Carroll, our treasurer, Cynthia Lloyd, our secretary, Sarah Killingsworth, Jerry Merrill, Mari Pileggi, Claire Seda, David Weinsoff, and David Wimpheimer. Thank you all for being on our board and all the incredible work and support that you provide so we can do our work. I also want to thank our community members who are also helping to advance our mission. Bruce Bowser, Tom Beatty, Kevin O'Connor, and Allison Koiser. And also want to thank our MPA Watch volunteers who are out collecting surveys, and once it was safe to get out and they could do them independently, have been out collecting data on our marine protected areas in West Marin. Thank you, Ashley Dumbra, Lee Jensen, Lena Zental, Steve Jaffe, Frederick Least, and Kent Katikian for their outstanding efforts in 2020. We also, as a benefit, I guess, as COVID have had an increase in internship interest, which has been really interesting for our team to transition into 100% online remote internships with college students. And so right now we have a cohort of 3 college interns who are helping us accomplish several projects right now. So thank you to Patrick. Patrick Nauer has been assisting with our Seashore General Management Plan research and learning about fire ecology. Our coastal advocate interns are Grace Milston and Carolina Auerbach, who have been helping with 2 projects, finalizing our Marin Monarch report and also helping to develop visitor online outreach resources that will be starting next year. And this summer, we had actually one of our largest cohorts of interns that were 100% remote. We had 2 legal and policy interns, Emma Cervantes and Jack Mensick, who worked on seashore, aquaculture, and viticulture items throughout the summer. With 3 coastal advocate interns who helped us with MPA Watch and provided some coverage at Duxbury Reef when we saw increases of human activities and poaching happening. So thank you, Grace, Sophie Heimerdinger, and Silvana Montague for your help. And our first climate advocate intern, Nicholas Ugald, who assisted me and Mari with our drawdown solution that focused on the water and energy nexus. The work of EAC is accomplished because of the dedicated people who care about the environment and are seeking to act to protect what we love for our current and future generations. And this year, I'm happy to highlight some of the work that we have accomplished despite the complicated world that we live in. So we were able to, after 20 years, more than 20 years, see protection of the Tomales Dunes. We can finally close one chapter of the Coastal Development Permit for the protection of this irreplaceable, unique dunes wetland complex habitat. We still have a wastewater system to install, and we'll be monitoring that. And so thank you, Catherine Caulfield, for all of your tireless advocacy on this effort since the 1990s. We continue our engagement on the Point Reyes National Seashore General Management Plan, and we are wrapping up our comments right now for the Coastal Commission's Federal Consistency Determination. In fact, in between preparing for this meeting, I have been writing the comments. We are going to have some information and details coming out to our membership next week on how you can comment and the best way to engage. We also completed our report on Marin's Monarch Movement that will be released on December 16th for the public. We have more details and additional outreach coming soon. We're very excited about this and ways that you can help the Western monarch butterfly. And thank you to Mia Monroe for all of your work on this and inspiring this project. We have also successfully advocated for an ordinance in Marin County that would essentially ban the development of any onshore oil and gas infrastructure without voter approval, which would append any potential leasing plans by the Trump administration right in our coastal backyard. And I want to thank Supervisor Rodani for his leadership in helping get this important ordinance passed. We completed our groundwater report, a protective analysis exploring the state and county groundwater regulations and management in a changing climate that is due for release in a few weeks. This is the first report of its kind in Marin County, and one of the ways we connected with our keynote speaker tonight, who worked with Ashley a few times as she developed this report and vetted it over the last year. And we continue to advocate for local solutions addressing the challenges of our changing climate. We've participated in 2 drawdown Marin stakeholder groups focused on blue carbon and closing the energy water nexus in Marin County. We're also part of a stakeholder working group reviewing mitigation and adaptation plans by the county, leading up to the final chapter update for our local coastal program, the environmental hazards chapter. And we continue our advocacy and coordination with our statewide coastal partners to safeguard our coast and ocean with programs like the MPA Watch, in collaboration with Marin County Parks, the National Park Service, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the MPA Collaborative Network to protect California's MPAs right in our backyard. We're working to ensure a healthy Tomales Bay by monitoring consumptive uses in the bay and coordinating statewide aquaculture monitoring to keep eyes on local, state, and federal industry development. And we're looking forward to providing additional outreach and education in 2021 to visitors. And we're fostering environmental stewards through College of Marin scholarships, sponsoring research of intertidal species at Duxbury Reef in partnership with College of Marin's biology department, and providing field trips and educational opportunities to visit Marin County parks, highlighting our coastal redwoods and marine habitats for students. Looking to the future, I am excited to announce that after almost 20 years in our old office at the corner of B Street, we did move 2 doors down to a larger space in July. And next year, we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary, and we have exciting events planned to re-engage with our membership community in a safe way. We're looking forward to creating these safe gatherings in 2021 to breathe life into our community and volunteer programs that COVID has prevented from occurring this year. We're planning the Birding and Nature Festival, and we've released a survey to everyone so you can let us know your comfort levels for participation and what types of events you would want to partake in. So you can find that on our website if you have not taken that survey yet. And our vision for 2021 includes increased community engagement, visitor engagement, increasing teamwork and growth, celebrating 50 years of EAC, and planning for the next 50 years. So stay tuned for development on that front. We're looking forward to seeing everybody in the new year when we can safely gather again. And as I wrap up, I also want to thank all of you. We miss you terribly. EAC is a grassroots advocacy organization, and our members are the lifeblood. You really actually keep us going every day. We miss being at the office, we miss each other, and we miss you. We're grateful for your support of EAC as you've ensured that we've been here for 50 years and it will be here for another 50 years. So thank you for coming tonight. I'm excited for the rest of our program, and I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen really quickly here. And while I've got you as a captive audience, I'm going to have you guys take some polls. So let me launch this first one. And why, just to preface why we're doing this, is this really helps to give us some information on the work that we're doing and that we could be doing into the future. So this first poll question is, what work are we doing today at EAC that interests you the most? You can select as many as you like in this multiple choice. So just everyone should be able to see this on your screen. and just click the ones that are interesting to you or most important to you. Okay. And when we get to like 80%, I will close this poll. This is interesting, pretty much everything.
Want to keep us busy.
Yes, keep us very busy. Okay, I'm gonna close the poll in a moment. We're at 80%. Thank you guys. I'll share the results with you. So pretty much all of it, but it looks like the leaders here would be our climate crisis that we are facing, that we're all collectively facing, and also conserving coastal biodiversity. Thank you for taking that poll. Okay, and then I've got another one. This one is kind of the same question, but I want you to think forward. What's the long-term work over the next 5 years that you'd like to see EAC focused on? It's the same categories. Just let us know what you care about most or what you think are the most important items that we should be focusing on. I'm getting up there, about 25%. Almost there. You guys are doing our survey for us right now while I have you on here rather than us sending an email out to you. Okay, we've got a good response right there. I'm going to close the poll out. All right, and sharing the results. So climate crisis, that's really interesting and not surprising, but that's great. Okay, and my last one, this one is for me. I would like to know, what programs do you guys need more information on? We have a tendency, or I get so familiar with our program work that, you know, if you let us know which ones are you not so clear on, I can work on our communications or start to talk about that a little bit more. So this is helpful feedback for me and Ashley and Jessica as we start to, you know, put information out to our membership community. Okay, we're about 30% voting. You guys are doing great.
Yeah, thanks for giving us this feedback.
This is really helpful. I really appreciate it. I wasn't going to do all these polls, and then I thought, you know what, everyone's going to be here. We're going to do it. Okay, so people are still voting. All right, I'm going to end this poll. And it looks like you guys basically ensuring resilient watersheds, that was the winner here. So more information on those. This is really actually helpful information for us. So as we start to put out our communications to everybody, this helps to inform how we're going to talk about this and what more or additional information do we need to share with you guys. So this was great and very helpful. Okay, so we're going to transition now to welcome Armando and have a really lovely conversation. So I have the honor of welcoming Armando Quintero, Director of California State Parks and Recreation. As a reminder, we're going to take questions at the end. You can either type them into the chat or raise your hand, which I think you do by selecting the participant box at the bottom, and there's a raise your hand option there. And we will call on you, unmute you, and you can ask Armando. A little bit about Armando is he was named the Director of Parks and Recreation in August 2020, or I think actually he told me earlier, September 1st, 2020. He's an experienced park professional with expertise in park operations, outdoor education, equity and access, and diversity and inclusion in hiring and retention. By training, he's an environmental scientist, and since 2015, he's been Executive Director of the Sierra Nevada Research Institute at UC Merced. He's also served as a member of the California Water Commission since 2014. I don't know if you're still on the commission. Not. Locally, many of you know Armando, as he formerly worked with the National Park Service for Golden Gate National Recreation Area, Point Reyes National Seashore, and was a board member for the Marin Municipal Water District. and we have had the privilege to collaborate with him on 2 projects. One was our groundwater report, and then also a discussion on a proposal for drawdown marin for small in-scale pipe micro hydro turbines. So please join me in welcoming Armando. All right, Armando, I'm going to spotlight you so people are going to see you. Here we go.
Okay, I'm going to disappear myself from the screen. I mean, I've been looking at these pictures and there are so many of my heroes here tonight. It's like, it's embarrassing. You remind me very strongly, and it's a daily reminder for me that the role that I'm in now is one to which I bring, I think, all, if not many of the, or many, if not all of the experiences in my life that involve many of you, you know, and so a good friend of mine called me, who I hired as a park ranger at Golden Gate years ago, and he's in his early 50s, and he was just a few years ago diagnosed with early age onset Alzheimer's. And he very sweetly called me and was thanking me for hiring him as a park ranger, and then went on to congratulate me for this job. And I stopped him. His name is George, you know, and I said, George, you just did something that I need to thank you for. And I said, as I go into this job, I said, you're going with me. And I think that that's something, and I really think I'm going to think about George for a very long time, because I literally entered this role with an extraordinary, and still an extraordinary sense of humility, I hope, and sort of a real hunger to make sure that I'm doing the best possible to gather the best wisdom in the room for the work that's in front of us. And so a couple things. I have, I think, 20 minutes or 25 minutes or so. And my first day on the job was September 1st. And I was supposed to go to Sacramento to get sworn in. And the day before, I got a call from the Secretary of Resources, and he said, you need to go to the Emergency Operations Center down at Santa Cruz in Scotts Valley. You need to be there by 8 o'clock. We're going to swear you in by Zoom. The superintendent for Santa Cruz Parks is going to meet you. You're going to meet staff. And then a couple hours later, you're going to take Gavin Newsom on a tour of Big Basin, which had just completely burned down. And so I had less than 24 hours notice to know what my next day was going to be. And I went down there, stood behind the Emergency Operations Center and got sworn in by Zoom. And then the superintendent, his name is Chris, poked his head around the corner. He said, hey, let me introduce you to a team of employees. And as we were walking over there, he mentioned that I think 3 of these employees, all of whom had been dealing with these fires down at Big Basin, 3 of them were helping to evacuate visitors from Big Basin as their houses were burning down in the background. And so I turned the corner, and here are 40 young people, some of them firefighters, some of them cultural resources folks, natural resources folks. And it's like, what do I say? And I have to, and I think I said, my heart is on the ground. And I know that I said to them that they were experiencing grief that most people experience when they lose a dear member of their family. And like, and so I don't even remember what I said, except I kept thinking about them, their careers, the time that they'd spent protecting these places, and now this. And now what do I do in the role that I'm in? And so I spoke to groups of the employees, and it was really very emotional and very humbling. And we got they then got in a Ranger truck and drove up into the headquarters of Big Basin, where there were a number of historic buildings, including a building which had just been restored and rebuilt, which was their primary nature center. They had their entire parks collection in this building. And the only thing left of these buildings at the headquarter area was concrete and metal. Everything else was just literally piles of ash. You could see what looked like, well, what were it was libraries sitting there just in this light gray ash, and absolutely heartbreaking. And then a few hours after that, And we walked around and they gave me a bit of an orientation. And really all of us were, they were in more of a state of shock than I was. And then the governor arrived with an entourage. We went on a walking tour that took maybe 40 minutes. And when we were finished, we were walking back for a press conference. And I happened to be walking with the governor, who I only spoke with for maybe 2 minutes during the visit. And this was maybe one of those minutes. And he stops with this group following us, and he turns around and he says, "I'd like to introduce you to our new state parks director." And he looks at his watch and he goes, "He was just sworn in 5 hours ago." And then without warning, he said, "And I have to tell you, the forest floor at Big Basin was still smoldering. The mother of the forest, which was right in front of us, you could see a pocket of flame up near the top of the mother of the forest." And the governor says, "Armando, why don't you tell us what your vision is for the California State Park system?" And so, and I'm going to tell you, and I'll tell you what I said in a nutshell. I said, this was the first state park that was created by the legislature, and it was a product of a partnership between Save the Redwoods League, Semper Byron's Fund, and political leaders around the state. And it was because of this partnership that this double helix was sort of born of nonprofit partners and public lands agencies. And that was the impetus that created state parks. And immediately after that, or shortly after that, there was a bond issuance that was promoted by Save the Redwoods League, which was a $6 million bond to purchase new state park lands. And an important element of that bond was that the only way that money could be spent was if it was matched dollar for dollar by the public. So there was sort of the birth of a tradition in public lands. And I said, and then the other thing about California is Yosemite actually began as a state preserve that was set aside by President Lincoln, now of course a national park. So both the national park idea and a state park idea were born in this state. And the traditions that we've been carrying forward since 1862 or 1864, really have, they're over 160 years old. And those are the traditions that we've nurtured and brought forward. But now look at what we're standing in. We're looking at these astonishing impacts of climate change. We're looking at a pandemic. We have incredible issues having to do with equity and access. We have now science that we can apply that's much more complex than anything we knew 150 and 60 years ago. So we have cultural resource issues, natural resource issues, biodiversity and habitats. And then on top of all of that, in the middle of this pandemic, we have people that are hungrier for park places and wild places than they ever have been before. So what do we do? And I said, I think what we need to do is bring together the best of the collective wisdom that we can garner, and working with employees, partners, the public, and institutions. We're going to need to rebuild these places and think about how we manage them going forward. And I think that our actions and our decisions are going to have to be actions and decisions that address the impacts of climate change. We're going to have to practice equity and inclusion. We need to be protecting cultural and natural resources. How do we enhance biodiversity and habitats? And how do we develop park leaders and civic park partners for this new century? And ultimately, we're now being handed the task of creating the new traditions for the next century, and I don't know what those are. It's an unbelievable challenge. And you've probably heard the government continually referring to this moment that we're in. This moment certainly seems to be stretching into a year. And so that was like the first 6 hours on the job. And I have to say that every day since has had challenges that I might even put close to the same category. It's an astonishing collection of landscapes. It's an astonishing collection of programs, and it's much larger than I imagined. You know, I'd read about parks. I knew that there was about 280 of them. There was almost 300 miles of coastline is in state park lands. You know, there's historic parks, there's off-highway vehicle parks. There's all these places in California, landscapes from Mexico to Oregon, from Nevada to the coast. And so how do we do this? And what happened is, as I began and am still settling into this job, one of the programs that really struck me that I wasn't quite aware of, and I wasn't quite aware of the impact of this program, is that, well, I'll say this. The Department of Park and Recreation is actually 4 agencies. It's the state park system, it's the the State Office of Historic Preservation, which is the office that's in charge of all of the historic structures and, you know, helping folks maintain the integrity of those historic structures and identifying structures as historic and sites as historic, as well as overseeing all the archaeologic sites in California and managing relationships with tribes from throughout California. That's the second agency. The third agency is the Office or the Boating and Waterways, and that's a group that oversees all the public docks and harbors. It's the agency that distributes and manages boating licenses, and then there is the parks. There's 9 parks which are off-highway vehicle parks, and these are parks where people can take dirt bikes and ATVs and things like that. So there's 4 agencies, and of those 3 departments, 3 departments, 3 of those departments manage significant grant programs: state parks, off-highway vehicles, and the boating and waterways. And between the 3 of them, since the year 2000, they have distributed over $2 billion in community grants throughout California. So pretty quickly for me, state parks became something much bigger than the 280 biopsies, if you will, of California. It actually is a very vibrant and integrated and complex organization that does things like funding nature centers, funding new trail systems, buying small park areas in communities from El Centro in Southern California up to the Oregon border. The OHV program actually has a very significant grants program. And what they do is they invest money, or the decisions from those grants rather, put money into doing restoration work around BLM and Forest Service lands that are a part of or adjacent to their OHV activities. And boating and waterways, they have grants that do things like build new boat access and ramps. They have a huge education program for the public. And Boating and Waterways is also a group that oversees the management and removal of invasive and exotic species in waterways, as well as removing hazardous water hazards like abandoned boats and sunken, tree trunks and things like that. So this agency, it's astonishing the reach of what all of these people do. And when you look at the workforce of those 4 agencies, it's almost 5,000 people. It's a huge responsibility, and virtually every group that I work with, as I've started to understand the work that they're doing, it is all about partnerships around the state. And there are also, not only are there partnerships around the state, but there's new partnerships that we are strengthening and pursuing. We're looking at co-management agreements with tribes for a number of areas around the state. That's a big initiative that the governor has. One of the things that we are also looking at is where can we establish new parks, and hopefully parks that are closer to urban centers and parks that give more access to more people. And one of the things that really excites me about these grants programs is that it gives us an opportunity as a state and as communities around the state to bring the public forward into places that they can realize are actually connected to these parks around the state and these places around the state. And I can say for myself as a kid, I'm the oldest of 8 kids. My parents did not go to parks. They were pretty busy raising 8 kids. But for me, my introduction to wild places and wild things was literally National Geographic and Encyclopedia Britannica. We didn't really have books in our houses, but we had those 2 things. And, and so those places became, for me, a place of imagination, places that made me think about, man, I would love to be scuba diving, someday. I would love to be climbing mountains. I want to go see these places. And I like to do artwork, and Encyclopedia was actually, the Encyclopedia Britannica was the place where I went to look for things that I could draw. And just a quick story is that I love birds, and I think I wore out the bird section of Encyclopedia Britannica because I can still picture flamingos and spoonbill herons and things like and all kinds of things, and I would draw them repeatedly to where I could draw them from memory, and run the tape forward. And this is just a quick jump to getting back to state parks. But when I was working as a national park ranger, I went to Washington, D.C. And during my time there, I had a break, and I got to run over to the Smithsonian. And I ran over to the Smithsonian, and I went to the natural history area, and I got in there. And when I turned the corner into one of the galleries in the natural history portion of the Smithsonian, I spontaneously started crying. And it was because in these glass cases all around me were all the birds that I'd drawn when I was a little kid. And so I literally got to walk into something that I had imagined for weeks, maybe even months, I don't know. And I think that the work that we do, along with protecting these places, like Morgan was talking about, along with educating people and doing the collective work and the political action that we all have to do to make sure that these areas are protected and are cared for. I think it's also our job to create the possibility for imaginations to be ignited. So I'm very interested in the work that state parks can do along the lines of all of that. And with 4,500 people, there's a lot of opportunities. So I am currently really looking at, and I'm starting to settle down a little bit going into my 4th month. But the opportunities are extraordinary. I think that I know that what we're going to be looking to do is to expand park partnerships, to increase the acquisition of new parklands. I know that we are very interested in looking at developing some new co-management agreements with tribes. There are current partnerships that are really amazing models that state parks are a part of. One of them is One Tam right here at Mount Tamalpais. I live in San Rafael, and our front yard actually overlooks the north slope of Mount Tam, so it's what I get to see every morning when I go into the living room. But One Tam, as you know, is a partnership between 4 agencies: a water district, county parks, state parks, and national parks. And one of the things that I love about that partnership, which I would like to see expanded to other geographies around the state, is really thinking about watersheds, that are actually watersheds that are owned by utilities and such, to be connected to the public lands around them. And I think that the way that we're able to weave partnerships, the way that we're able to create these new patterns of land management becomes a framework for storytelling to the public about these places as places on which we depend for our lives. Water being one simple example. Um, and then certainly when you start looking at things like the catastrophic fires that we experienced this year, and for the last 20 years, every year there's maybe been, on the biggest fire years, there's been 700,000 acres that burned in a fire year. This year, the fire season isn't even over yet. And we have seen 4.2 or 4.3 million acres burned this year. The fire that burned in Big Basin, where the trees are almost 300 feet tall in some places. At the headquarters of Big Basin, and I hate to say this, but imagine Muir Woods, because that's a really good simile to what the headquarters of Big Basin sort of look like. Although in Big Basin you could camp, and there was campfire circles, a big campfire ring and things like that, or amphitheater rather. When we were there with the governor, I asked the firefighters from CAL FIRE who were fighting the fire there, and I asked them what the flame heights were at the headquarters of Big Basin. And their estimates were that the flame heights in a coastal redwood forest was 500 feet. And we are seeing things today that we never really imagined. And one of the things that I think about as I work with partnering agencies, with park partners and others, is and I think about this every day, that tomorrow it's not unlikely that we are going to see something that we've never seen before. And so how do we do this? And there is a book that I'd recommend. It's called Deep Survival. And I mentioned prior to getting on camera with all of you, I was talking with Morgan and a few other folks, with Ashley and others. And I mentioned this book because it actually is a series of stories that talks about why people survive certain situations, or why people did and why they didn't in some cases. And it's really interesting because, simply put, I'll give you two examples. One of them is, and you've all heard these stories, a small child gets lost in the woods, and we're all looking for that child for 3 or 4 days, 5 days. There was even a story very recently about this. And when the child is found, they're a little cold, they're hungry, their pants might be gone, or their shoes might be gone, but they're okay. And it turns out that for those days that they were gone, when they were tired, they went to sleep. When they got cold, they got themselves warm. When they were hungry, they ate something. They took care of themselves and adapted to exactly what was going on for them that allowed them to survive. As we age, because that automatic sort of self-preservation ends up stopping at the age of like 7. And then after that, we start to think ourselves into trouble. We keep working toward our goal and looking at the goal and not really paying attention to what's happening around us. And I think we are in a moment like that, where every day we really have to question ourselves and allow ourselves to be questioned. I have to say that one of the things that was awkward, or still is a bit awkward, is when I started this role, everybody, of course, referred to me as director, and they were being very deferential toward me. And those of you who know me well know that that's embarrassing, and I don't like that. And so what I find myself doing with teams is, especially when we're in work groups or when I'm working with a leadership team or in a park, I'll go, you know what? I really need you guys to call me Armando. And here's why. We're trying to solve problems here. And I don't want you to be thinking of me as the director. I want you to be thinking of me as a colleague in the room, and we need to be looking and listening to each other. So whatever solutions we come to, really as a collective, we're hopefully going to be doing the best thing possible. And the other thing is, we also have to be prepared to change our minds the next day. And so that gets to the continual application, I think, of science and of knowledge. So I think I should, and so anyway, it's it's an amazing challenge. It's an amazing privilege. I'm going to end with this, and then I'm going to go to questions, because there's some great questions on the chat line, and I need to speak to what you guys have questions about. But I will say that, and it's no surprise to you, but the COVID catastrophe that we're in right now is entering a stunning phase, and I cannot express how serious it is. I know you're a group of very well-educated folks. Marin has got some of the lowest COVID case numbers in the state, and I'm very grateful for that. I wish more areas of the state were as responsible with each other, but there is no question but that the time between now and the new year is terrifying. And I really cannot express how serious this is. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of each other. And in a strange way, I think of it as a metaphor for how we need to treat the world around us and the communities around us. When I talk about equity and inclusion, I think we need to take care of ourselves, and we need to take care of others. And certainly with climate, we need to be changing our behaviors, and also we need to be taking actions that are absolutely forward-looking, and not trying to repair things that we've built in the past necessarily, especially with things like sea level rise and such. So I'm going to go to questions, I think, Morgan. And
Perfect.
are there questions that rise for you?
Yeah, let's see. So first, let's do this. Does anybody want to ask a live question? Don't be shy.
And you can put it back to gallery view.
Okay, here, let me unspotlight you here. Okay.
You know what? I wish I could call out the names of all the folks on the screen that I know. It's just really amazing. It feels like a birthday party. You guys are amazing. So anyway, go to the questions.
Okay, so if you want to ask a live question, it's a different view for me, but I believe what you have to do at the bottom is select the participants button. And when you pull that up, there should be an option there for you to raise your hand. So does anybody want to ask a live question? Don't be shy. Okay.
So I'll go to one.
All right, go ahead.
It says state parks had a great program to bring under-resourced families into camping experiences in the park. Some of those programs are still continuing, but actually, and it's in partnership with park partners like Parks California and the Parks Foundation. But actually, that brings to mind a program called Ports. And the Ports program, which was started a couple of years ago, had naturalists working in the parks and actually broadcasting live video streams sometimes to classrooms and groups of kids. And in other cases, they would put together a video experience where you might have an interpreter talking to you about sea otters while you're looking at sea otters down in Morro Bay or something like that. And what happened is, and I'm sorry that I don't know the numbers right now, but when COVID hit, the viewership of that Ports program went to like 76,000 views in a matter of months, and is a wildly popular program. And we're continuing to expand that. In fact, I mentioned to Morgan that on the 14th of December, we're going to be broadcasting a live event for a couple of hours that's about sea level rise, and we're going to do it during a king tide event. So I'm going to be at one of the local state parks in the Bay Area, and broadcasting live, probably with the Secretary of Resources for the state, and talking about sea level rise, climate change, and king tides as a early view in that.
That's great. If you guys haven't checked out the Ports program by Cal State Parks, please do. I think Ash is going to try to put a link to that in the chat. So if you're not familiar with it, you can see it or watch one of the live broadcasts. Ashley, Armando, do you want Ashley to read you the questions and then
Yeah,
she can mark them
I
off?
can see them. You know, I'm going to
You're gonna do
read
it?
from the bottom up, and I'm just
Perfect.
going to go with what's there. David Loeb asked about state parks being able to stay open. What we're doing is we're working with the county health agencies. So the way we manage access to parks aligns with the county requirements, the county health direction. And I'll tell you, for the next month, it's going to get very, very serious. It's the numbers that are, well, I'll give you one number. The highest daily positives since the pandemic started was 11,000 people. Yesterday's was 22,000 people.
Wow.
Okay. So it's it's an extraordinary concern. Okay, Ann Brown, hi Ann. She asked about the Diablo Range. There are lands that were purchased by OHV funds. It's an area called Tesla. It's adjacent to an OHV area called Carnegie. Carnegie was an old mining operation, and it was also a privately held OHV park, which Parks inherited a number of years ago. There's been a lot of work going on there in terms of there's a couple things that are happening with OHV parks in general. There is no plan right now for Tesla and that has been acquired, but there hasn't been a lot of work done on that. That's certainly something that we're looking at and trying to figure out how we're going to move forward with purchases like that. And with parks, with state parks, there's a whole planning public process that allows for public input and all of that. So we're not anywhere near a decision on that. We're still fairly early in the planning stages on bringing that to the public. One of the things that I'll also say is that with off-highway vehicle parks, there was new legislation that was just passed in 2017. It's SB 249, and it actually puts really strong resource protection requirements on how parks manages those areas. And so it's there are 9 OHV parks within the state park system. That's a really tough, that is a really tough problem that we've been handed because state parks is managing them because of statute. And there are multiple agencies that can weigh in on what's going on there, like the Coastal Commission, the State Fish and Wildlife. And so there are sister agencies, sister departments that are working together on how we move forward to manage these places. There is actually Belle Cole asked about educating around climate change. We're working right now, not talking. Fish and Wildlife put together something for their folks recently called the Climate University. And so I'm getting that put together for state parks to get our staffs competent in climate conversations. Excuse me, I have to take something. Give me just a minute. I really apologize. I'm going to mute this for a second. I'm sorry.
No worries, that's okay. We're going to call on Marshall and Jennifer Livingston next, and then Carolyn Longstreth, you're next on the queue. You guys did raise your hands, and then we'll move back into the chat once Armando jumps back in. Thank you guys for being patient and hanging in there. Oh, let me unmute Jess.
So I could just take this minute and show you if you let me share my screen.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Wait, he's back. He's back.
Oh, okay.
You kidding?
I think I got you. There we go. Okay.
So I mean, so live, that was the Secretary of Resources, and he's as soon as I get off this call, we have a very urgent matter to deal with at 8 o'clock. So I mean, that's hello.
No worries.
And I got ahead. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, we've got a live question from Marshall and Jennifer. I'm going to ask them to unmute themselves.
Okay. Hey, great. Hey, Marshall. Hey, Jennifer.
Hi, Armando.
Hey, Armando.
Yay. It's good to see you guys.
Congratulations, first of all. And I really liked what you said just about equity and your story about being a director and you know, being in a meeting and being called a colleague. And one of the things about working for the library that's been really, really successful has been our collaboration with parks. So we've collaborated with the county parks, the state parks, and the Stafford Lake, the Marin Municipal Water District parks. And so what we do is we have library passes available for our patrons that that can be checked out. And there's several per library for the Marin Municipal Water District and for the county parks. But for the state park, we only get one per library, and they are so sought after. And I just, when you talk about access, you know, public access and trying to bring, you know, more people to your parks, this is a really successful program that I think could be expanded, and that we would love to see more passes in the Marin County Free Library for our patrons, because they're very popular.
I'm going to give you a call, Jennifer. Okay.
Okay.
And so let's talk about this, because that, I mean, what a perfect model. And there may be something like that out there, but I would just love, I see what you're saying. And it is something that we've been talking about, is how do we get passes into the hands of folks who want to get into parks who don't have access. And it's actually a big theme in the work that we're doing, and that sort of an idea I had not heard. So
yeah, it's very popular, and I just think there could be more of it.
It could be more of it, and it could be pretty immediate too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening.
No, thank you, really.
That's great. Thank you, Jennifer. Great idea. I'm going to call on Carolyn now, Longstreth, who had her hand raised. Are you there, Carolyn? Let's see. Carolyn, maybe
Okay,
not?
looks
Oh, there
like
you
that-
are.
Hi, everyone. I came in kind of late tonight, I'm afraid, so I hope this isn't repetitious. My question is about Tomales Bay State Park, and especially Heart's Desire and the vegetation buildup there. And I'm wondering if you can speak to the fire hazard that a lot of us are worried about there.
Sure, that's a good question. The Secretary of Resources, Wade Crowfoot, actually has created a couple of new deputy secretary positions. One of them is literally forests and watersheds. And Jessica Morse, who is the deputy director for that whole project, is somebody who I'm working with a lot right now. And we actually, our natural resources lead, whose name is Jay Chamberlain, has actually been working with her, because we have plans in place, but we need support to get those plans working. And so we are looking at those areas, and certainly looking at areas where we can partner with the other land management agencies. I can give you an example that up in Lake Tahoe, there's a burn boss there, a person who manages control fires in that area. And what they've done is they've created this partnership where they have the Air Pollution Control District, CAL FIRE, and state parks as a team doing the plans for these controlled burns. So rather than having to go through several stages for permitting, they're actually going in as a collective and getting the work planned, getting the media message out to the community, and then getting the burns done. And one of the things that we're looking at right now is really accumulating the economic value of that sort of work, because on the surface you can say, well, we're going to be eliminating or reducing the economic impact of catastrophic fires. But when you start looking at things like healthier soils, better water retention because you don't have overgrown forests, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that start to add up, really as an ecosystem service. So we're looking at that from a couple of angles in terms of how do we partner with local agencies and the other regulatory agencies to facilitate fairly quick and effective work. And we want, one of the things that we're all saying is we want more money to go into the project and less money going into, in essence, the permitting. I mean, we have to do the science, we have to do the planning, and that's critical. But I am not aware of something specific for Tomales Bay, but it certainly makes sense that we reach out to Ben Becker and the folks at Point Reyes and see how we put our heads together in that area. But we don't have anything specific right now, Carolyn.
Okay, well, it sounds like it has a lot of potential.
Yep.
I hope it can be pursued.
Well, during the peak of the fires, I had some really good live time fire maps, and I kept looking at the Woodward fire and just, and in fact, that's Point Reyes fire broadside that was done by Tom Killian and Gary Snyder. See, that's right there. So I'm well aware of the fire risks of the world in which you all live.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank
Sure.
you. Okay, so I think we want to go back to the message board. We could, if we want, Ash might be able to read some since we're getting a little tight on time. And then she can kind of, Ashley, do you have the questions up?
Yeah. Let's see. I guess since continuing with starting from the bottom, Kathy Eagle has one that says, any plans to educate park users on good stewardship, eco-tourist use of parks for environmental concerns? And I'm sure there's already some of that takes place, but maybe you can comment on that.
We were actually talking about that before we started the program this evening. And I think we're literally seeing waves of new visitors coming into parks. And I really think it demands that we think about the sort of messaging that we're doing now, because in essence, we have not only new users, but new impacts. I mean, trash receptacles are completely, that's a simple one to point out, but the public restrooms and trash receptacles are getting really overrun. There are places in state parks like Bernie Falls up in the north, where since the pandemic started, Highway Patrol has to put several officers up there to control the traffic to that area every weekend. And so how do we manage, how do we manage all of that? And I don't know what that looks like, but we are talking about some sort of campaigns to hopefully get the public more engaged in not having such an impact on resources. And we were talking about impacts on tide pools, for example. Right now, since the pandemic has hit, tide pools are being flooded with visitors. And, as Morgan said, down in Bolinas, or down in Half Moon Bay, at the end of the day, there's all kinds of tide pool creatures scattered in the parking lot as people got back to their cars and dropped them. It's an astonishing impact, but it's also, I think, it's an opportunity that we actually have to address. Hopefully turn it into supporters rather than impact.
Thank you. Let's see, we have so many good questions. Okay, Andrea Glass had one about how State Parks is planning on working with the National Seashore on their new plan for ranches out here in Point Reyes, and what is the conservation vision and working with EAC and the National Seashore to preserve our environment and protect wildlife. So one about the seashore.
I don't know, Andrea. Maria, the superintendent for the Bay Area Parks, her name is Maria, and I'm sorry, her last name just dropped out of my head. But we were just out there talking to the folks at the retreat center up on Tomales Bay, talking to the operators of that retreat center on how we're going to get that back on its feet. But I'll talk to Maria and see when we can talk with Ben and the group there at Point Reyes.
Thank you. And I get Maria Mowry, I think I'm probably not saying
yes,
that right.
Mowry. She's got a sister named Jeremy who also works with State Parks.
Okay, let's see. What do you think, Morgan? We have time. There's so many good questions. I'm not sure if we can get to all of them. Let me go back. So we had one from Susan Hopp, and she said, what issues do you see from the pressure for development impacting our parks and watersheds? Public officials are under pressure for building seemingly. Do you see an erosion of adhering to environmental controls like EIRs under CEQA? And what is the role of concerned citizen who want to protect watersheds and wildlife? That's a kind of a long question there.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. What's interesting is that the parks that are being created are actually attracting builders, if you will. And so it's really interesting how we us, we call out lands and create a boundary around them and put together a plan for them. And right now, a real challenge is something called Candlestick State Park. And that Candlestick, which is where the old Giant Stadium used to be, has, there's been plans for years to develop that as basically an urban recreation area. But now the building pressure around the boundaries of that area are immense. And there's also big homeless, and right now with COVID, it's compounded, but there's even bigger homelessness pressures on these places. So it's interesting, with that question, it raises the realization that we have to be doing a really good job of planning for all of the impacts of creating a park, and not looking inward as well as looking outward and what that can generate. And we're getting a lot of experience on that, and it's tough. I don't know the answer. In fact, we are putting together a multi-agency group to go to Candlestick as soon as this next COVID curtain rises, because right now I think the COVID curtain is dropping. And I think our activities are really going to be starting to get even more restricted. So.
Okay, let's see. One more from Sarah Allen. It says the UC Reserve Program has initiated a climate change monitoring program for the reserves called the Heartbeat Initiative. How involved are the state parks with this program, such as Ana Nuevo or other parks that are also UC reserves?
Hi, Sarah Allen. I just came from UC Merced prior to coming to state parks, and I was working with the UC system. I was on the president's advisory group for the UC Reserve. I'm very well aware of the Heartbeat Initiative. I think that the Heartbeat Initiative absolutely has to be expanded beyond just the UC Reserve program. And we haven't been involved with that as a state park system. Honestly, since I started, we've been dealing with the catastrophic issues right now. But I have been talking with a couple of the chancellors, and I'm looking forward to talking with the folks at the UC Office of the President, because one of the things that the governor said down at Big Basin after introducing me and during the press conference, he said that part of my job was to create a really powerful partnership between the University of California system and the California State Park system. So that's actually a charge that is handed to me. And I think that it's going to be with figuring out how one way that I think about the reserves is when you look at reserves and the research that goes on within those reserves, oftentimes the research goes well beyond the boundaries of those reserves. I mean, there's 3 or 4 reserves in the Southern Sierra, but when you look at the footprint of the work being done by the researchers there, it's actually the entire Southern Sierra that's covered by their work. So I think there's a couple of ways of looking at that could really make that very powerful, and also be a very powerful partnership with park agencies.
Thank you so much. I think we have time for one more question. I'm sorry we can't get to quite all of them. But David Rempel asked, can you give us some examples of successful partnerships with community organizations on park expansion, maintenance, or education? And I know you've already talked a little bit about park partners and One TAM, for example, but maybe you could expand on that a little bit.
Sure. Friends of Mount Diablo is a really good example. They not only have purchased significant and critical portions of land. You might think of them as being a group that buys the hole in the donut. And what they're doing is putting together management plans along with purchasing the land, and in some cases providing basically some level of co-management support. There's also the newer, larger landscapes that are being looked at by parks and land agencies and other groups like partnerships with the Trust for Public Land, Nature Conservancy, and others. I actually think that all of those are really a perfect combination for something called landscape scale networks. And Mount TAM is a product of it is a landscape scale network program. And if you go to the One TAM website and look up case studies in the search function, and I helped work on that when I was on the board of directors for the water district. in the case, we hired somebody to put together an basically a real-time case study of what it took to put that partnership together. And we did it with the intent of people being able to look at what we did and hopefully learn from our mistakes and take advantage of those things that worked well. So I would say that there's a lot of groups out there like TPL, Nature Conservancy, local regional groups like Save Mount Diablo, and the tribes are really expressing very active and proactive interest in getting into co-management agreements with us for lands throughout the strait. And that's something that we're exploring and are very excited about.
Thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you, Armando. I think we're out of time for questions. If you have any questions that weren't answered, we'll do our best after the meeting to get answers for those. But thank you all for submitting those. And thank you, Armando, for joining
My
us
pleasure.
tonight. It was really amazing, and really appreciate you taking time out of your day.
No, there's heroes on the screen, Carlos Porrata, and others. And hi, Marjorie and David Guggenheim. I mean, there's some dear friends on the screen, and I can't say hi to everybody, but know that I am looking at you and look forward to the day when we can hug again. How's that?
That's great.
Yeah.
If you guys want to send your notes to Armando in the chat, you can do that. I'm going to transition us based off of time over to our development director, to Jessica. I think you're unmuted, Jess, still.
I am.
Great. And
All right, coming to you guys from Inverness over here, sometimes known as the Void, but I do have internet tonight, so this is good. And I just want to say, gosh, it's so good to see all your faces. The work I do for the organization often deals with the relationships I have with all of you. And so I really miss seeing you guys at events and seeing our partners like Marshall, who is always around the office, and different people around town. And so it has been truly kind of isolating for us, but I have to say, I'm just really grateful that we do have this technology, because we've done a lot this year. And I want you to know that we've just sent off the printed newsletter. And so all this information that Morgan talked about at the beginning of the program, you'll get a lot more of those details in the upcoming newsletter. So please keep your eyes out for that, including some info on that Tomales Dunes project that Catherine worked so hard for so many years on, which is really one of our kind of mission moments, really. So what I really want to do here really quickly is I just want to share the screen with you guys real quick. I just want to remind you that this is our website right here. And for those of you, I mean, I'm kind of talking to the choir because many of you are members. If you're not, though, we are still trying to raise $50,000 for our work, and our board is generously matching up to $20,000 before December 31st. So you can always go to support our work here, see our key successes here. You can go to About Us and read our newsletters down here, or contact us. And then, of course, we do have our Giving with Purpose. So if you want to shop for local gifts this year, we do have our online store here with all these goodies here and Sarah Killian prints and things like that. And then, of course, we have expanded our Westmoreland Wilds tees and hoodies campaign, so you can get all these cool swag and show your Westmoreland pride around town. That's going on until December 16th. So those are some ways that you can get involved before the end of the year. But what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna read a little poem that I picked for you guys, and then we're gonna do a little toast, and then we'll give you some prizes, because that is so fun, and because it's a way to thank you guys for all of the help that you've given us. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna read you this little poem here by Mary Oliver. And I thought it was fitting because it was the place I want to get back to, which is really with all of you people. So here we go. Is where in the pine woods, in the moments between the darkness and the first light, 2 deer came walking down the hill. And when they saw me, they said to each other, okay, this one is okay. Let's see who she is and why she is sitting on the ground like that, so quiet, as if asleep or in a dream, but anyway, harmless. And so they come on their slender legs and gazed upon me, not unlike the way I go out to the dunes and look and look and look into the faces of flowers, and then one of them leaned forward and nuzzled my hand. And what can my life bring me that could exceed that brief moment? For 20 years, I have gone every day to the same woods, not waiting exactly, just lingering. Such gifts bestowed can't be repeated. If you want to talk about this, come to visit. I live in the house near the corner, which I have named Gratitude. Mary Oliver. I also thought that was fitting because we were on the corner for quite some time, 20 years, you know, over there in the Creamery building, and now we're just 2 doors down. But, you know, I thought that was fitting. And so I want to just raise a glass to all you guys in appreciation of your support. And then what I want to do is pull out my big wheel here and show you all your names are on here. You have to be present to win, so you better stay online. So we're gonna spin this little wheel here, and the first prize we're gonna give 5 prizes. So there, you got a chance to win. So the first prize is gonna be this little bundle right here. It's bamboo utensils.
We can't see the bundle. We only see your wheel.
Do you see it?
I see
Can you
the
see
wheel.
it?
No,
Let's-
we just see the wheel. But that's
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna stop sharing really quickly. We're gonna reshare the screen because we can do this. These
we
are the
go.
prizes. Can you see them now?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you reusable utensils, reusable cup, and a Westmoreland Wild sticker. This is our trademark. It came from our old Westmoreland Wild art show, and Barry Deutsch was so great to help us design that. And then it has a little spin for the next 50 years here with this new design. So can everyone see my wheel now?
No.
Oh, rats. Okay. So we're just gonna go back to sharing, and you know, this is how, you know, Zoom webinars go. So okay, here we go, spinning. Who's gonna be the lucky winner? Oh, it's Ben Becker. I know that guy.
Is Ben
All
on
right.
the call? Is he here?
And let's see, can you look, because it's shut all my things down.
Ben is not here. So we gotta spin again.
Okay, spin again. See, fun you can have on Zoom conversations. How about Pamela? Are you here?
Pamela?
Maybe you could unmute everybody and they could say yes.
Oh, that's a
or-
good idea. Hold on. Let me figure out how to do that.
I see a different Pamela, but I don't think I see that Pamela.
Okay, moving along here, people. Keeping it moving along. Come on, be someone that's here.
Even if you're unmuted.
Ann Menke, are you here?
We only have your name.
Everybody
Everybody-
left.
See, all these
Ah,
people said they were
dropped
gonna
off.
come and then they didn't, and now they're missing out.
We're improving the odds.
All right, how about Toby? Oh my jeepers creepers
I don't think
here.
so. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, I guess you speak.
I did let everybody unmute themselves. So
I saw Diane Sampson
Where
here
you're
earlier.
unmuted.
Is she here?
there's a Diane, Paul. No, not Sanson. She logged off.
This is big, yeah, sorry y'all. See,
No, we're going back now.
how about Karen Custle?
Know her.
Please, Karen.
She's a hiker.
There's a
Different
Karen
I think.
Q.
Never gonna get through all 5 going this way.
I know, right? We're
on.
gonna have to adjust.
Everybody has to put their energy, their feeling. Oh, Jennifer, are you still here?
Yes.
Livingston?
Yes.
Woo! Livingston. All right, we got a winner. Okay, so the next prize is going to be one of Sarah's prints. Can you guys see that?
No.
No.
Nope.
Well, it's going to be one of those prints I said online, and I will send you an email and you can pick one, but it's a 5x7 beautiful wildlife of like bobcats or foxes or whatever. And you're going to be the lucky winner of that. So here we go. Put your energy into this. You got to be here to win. I don't think Alex is. Oh my God. It almost was on another Livingston. She's not here, right?
Alex.
Ashley?
No, I just checked. Yeah, I didn't see her. She's not here, unfortunately, for
Look,
her.
you can remove people.
If it's anyone within 3 numbers, they
Good idea.
all night.
Oh, that's
Okay,
a good point. Go
We'll
up
go
and
with
down.
whoever's above. Whoever is above, okay?
Good idea.
Is Ing still here?
No,
I don't see her.
but I
Okay,
think
so then it's Kathy Eagle.
Kathy's
Kathy.
here.
Eagle.
She was here.
Oh, is she
Oh,
not
she is.
here?
No, she is still here. She's
Okay.
Kathleen Eagle in the thing.
here.
Woo!
Okay. Woo! Okay, we're gonna give one more of those prints away. One more print coming your way.
Good idea, Jack, for us to go
Yeah.
one above.
Is Anne here? Anne Ardillo? I don't think so.
I don't see Anne.
Oh, Claire Peasley then.
Let's see.
Claire's
Still
here. I
here?
saw her with her hat. I need to put my hat on.
Yay! Okay, we're gonna give another one of those Western Wild bundles away. We only have 2 more.
All right.
I don't think Reed's here. Is Reed here?
Okay, I'm double checking.
No, so that's
No, but
Pamela Dake. Is
She
Pamela
is
Dake?
here. Pamela's here.
Pamela.
Yes, Pamela.
All right. And I got your guys' contact from when you guys signed up. So I will do that. And then the last thing we're going to do is a set of these note cards from Sarah Allen too. They're either a bird packet or they're wildlife cards. So here we go. One last prize. This seemed really fun in theory.
Well, I like the go one above. There we go. Because some people dropped off early.
Is Anne, wait, Anne already came up, right? And she
Oh,
wasn't
she's
did.
lucky. Did she come up twice? Yeah,
She
she's
did.
Well,
not
because I
here.
didn't realize you could remove them. We just started using this. Okay, so how about
But that's pretty good
Anna.
odds.
Anna Weinstein? Is she here?
I didn't know.
Is
No.
Hollis Bewley here?
How do they do? Okay, Hollis.
I'm not seeing Hollis.
Okay,
What
here
about?
we
Oh,
go.
you're
One
spinning
more time, y'all. One more time.
in.
Oh, I saw Michael here early. Oh, wait, is it Michael or is it Luana? She's not.
Ooh.
Is Luana here?
Nope.
How about David Rumpel? Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yay!
He's here, yay!
Last one standing.
Okay, I think we all need to have another toast to that magical experience.
It's like my
Uh,
drink is invisible.
I'll also be sending you guys a thank you and follow-up email. And we will have this recorded, so that will also be in that when I send that out to you guys. But again, thank you from me. We are planning the Bird Festival, and also we are planning our 50th anniversary next year, and there are things that potentially can be done from home. So if you like doing research or you like doing things and you want to volunteer, contact me at jessica@eacmarin.org and I can put you in touch with the right people. Okay, Morgan.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It's so great to see you all, and have a wonderful holiday. I look forward to hopefully seeing you guys in the new year safely. And thank you so much for joining us tonight and for wearing your hats. I forgot to put mine on earlier, but I have it, and I'm
yeah.
enjoying seeing everybody's funny hats.
Exactly. In honor of winter.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
guys.
so
Have a
much.
great
So
night.
thank
you.
Happy holidays.
Bye, guys. Have a good
Bye.
night.
Thank you.
Oh, good hat, Barry. I like your hat.
Bye.
I know.
Carlos,
Thanks
I like
for the
your hat.
hats. Those are
Look at
great. You
Michael's
can see
hat.
my antlers with this
There, have a
background on.
I love it. Is that a brain hat that Michael's wearing? That's awesome.
Oh, that is cool.
It looks like it's a knit brain. That's great. Oh, there's
I like the
Nona.
cowboy hat, Barry.
That's wonderful.
Claire, stylish as ever. I will be contacting you.
You're the best, Jessica.
Thank you, everyone.
EAC.
Jean, great to see you. You guys
Carlos,
are
we love your
awesome.
hair.
Thanks, David, for coming too.
Bye, everybody. Have a
All the
great
day.
night.
Bye.
Hi, Mom. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Bye, Jean.
Bye.
Bye, Jean.
Bye, Donna.
Bye, Kathy. Bye, Nona.
Carlos. Miss
Here's
you,
Dennis.
Carlos. Carolyn.
Yeah, good question, Carolyn. Good to see you.
Carolyn's my neighbor.
Oh, cool. Hi, Jean.
right.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, Jackie.
David and Patty, you guys
Pamela,
are
Pamela, I'll
great.
contact you about your prize.
All right. Oh, she could.
I saw that you said something. I just couldn't hear you because you're muted.
Oh.
I can't. Let's see.
Can you unmute her?
Yeah, I did. Let's see. As to unmute. Let's see.
You have to self unmute.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to self unmute. I'll call you. I'll
There
call
you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now I can hear you. Yeah, I'll contact
Yeah.
you. Thanks,
Yeah.
George and Barry. I love you guys.
Oh,
Thanks for
there's Barbara
coming.
and Mary. I didn't
Barbara.
see you, Barbara.
I
It's
think
so dark
that's
in your house.
Barry. Maybe
It's
in the show.
Barbara.
I can't tell.
Oh wait, there might be Barry on the
I
side.
can't tell if he's next to her or not.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
Alan.
Oh, yeah, it's dark
Thank
there.
you.
Oh yeah. Right.
Okay, guys.
you
Have a
guys.
great night. I'll see you later.